Hello Team FD and welcome back to Winners and Losers, the show where we break down the latest and greatest Premier League action. Joining me today is Joseph Tomlinson. How the devil was your weekend?
Very good, mate. Very, very good. Pretty good result against Chelsea away from home. Pretty good performance. And then I enjoyed Super Sunday, actually. And we're going to talk about one of the games, aren't we?
We definitely are. On today's episode, we will be focusing on Newcastle's seismic away win at Tottenham, asking, can the Magpies really gatecrash the Champions League spots this year? We're also going to move on to why are Spurs playing so badly? As ever, we want to know your thoughts, so hit us up in the comments below and I'll endeavour to get back to you in the first hour. Let's start with our winners then. Let's put some shine on Eddie Howe's men. Joe, before we address the bigger question, the Champions League question, which some people might perceive as ridiculous, let's talk about the match. Who was your standout performer or performers?
Do you know what? I can't pick one standout performer, I don't think, from that Newcastle performance. I think it was a real team effort. 1 to 11, they were just sensational all over the pitch. I think even if you start in the back line, I thought Sven Botman was superb, winning everything in the air, very, very calm, distributing as well. I kind of like the balance with Dan Burn outside him on that left-hand side as well. I think that works really well. In the midfield, I mean, hard to look past Joelinton as well. I think 4 tackles and interceptions across the course of the game. Very, very impressive. When he's partnered alongside a player that's as good on the ball as Bruno Guimaraes, it just adds to it, doesn't it? And Bruno Guimaraes, you know, in his post-match was saying, I haven't slept for 2 days. If that's him without 2 days' sleep, you know, he's a frightening player, isn't he?
He is.
Almiron continues to score goals. It's 5-5, isn't it? I don't know what's happened to him. I don't know what he's eating for breakfast, but his finishing is off the scale.
Already his highest-scoring Premier League season.
Yeah, and do you know what I like about him? Is that he's improving week on week with his confidence. Like, it feels like when he gets in front of goal now, I back him to score. Last season, if he got in front of goal, you're like, nah, this is going wide, isn't it? And some of the goals he's scored recently have been unreal as well. The finishes, the finish midweek. I even thought the finish at the weekend was pretty good, although Lurie didn't exactly cover himself in glory. Yeah, Callum Wilson going forward in terms of individual performances, holding the ball up. He took his goal so well. I know we're going to speak about his goal. I thought it was perfectly legitimate. I think Lurie had a whiff. I think even if the 2 outfield players come together in that manner, I don't think the referee gives a foul. I thought the referee got it absolutely spot on. I think he took 4 shots as well across the course of the game. Callum Wilson, didn't he? Overall, I just can't pick one player out as like a man of the match. It's like the perfect Newcastle team performance.
Yeah, you mentioned some Hugo Lloris there. We're going to talk about his errors a little bit later in the Tottenham section. Let's carry on with the positivity on the Newcastle front. Crazy to think that on October 24th last year, they were 19th, winless, and only just coming out of the Steve Bruce era.
Mad.
But is it too soon to be getting carried away? Let's look at some bigger picture numbers, because this is Newcastle's best start to a season since 2011-12 when they finished 5th under Alan Pardew. That year it was Liverpool and Chelsea who were the powerhouse sides that they edged out. Now, it will be a huge ask for Eddie Howe's men to go one better this season and finish 4th. But the numbers under the hood,
so good,
extremely promising. This is a very, very well-coached side. Now, they have spent £240 million since the start of last season. We've got to get that out of the way. That is, of course, a huge factor, but it shouldn't override the good work that Eddie Howe is doing on the training pitch, because, I mean, the effect he's had on some of the existing personnel, absolutely huge.
Fabian Schär.
Yeah, what a comeback. What a remontada from Fabian Schär. They've only lost 1 game all season, currently in 4th with a better goal difference than Chelsea, United, Liverpool, Tottenham. They've conceded the fewest goals in the Premier League on 10. And this was a manager who, I mean, the biggest criticism levelled at him when Newcastle hired him for the job was that he couldn't coach or didn't have a pedigree when it came to coaching a Premier League defence.
100%.
Of course, Bournemouth, very porous under Eddie Howe, but not the case here. I mean, expected goals has them down, conceding 11.2, so they're fairly on par with that. It does help that Nick Pope is having a really good start to the season. I think he's overperforming post-shot expected goals by around 2. But he's done that in 4 of his last 5 seasons, so this is form I think Nick Pope can sustain. They're first in the league as well for balls won in the opposition's 3rd. They're 4th for passes per defensive action. What this reminds me of a little bit is when Jurgen Klopp finally imprinted his DNA, his way of playing on Liverpool, and we saw that huge uptick in performance, in results. And I say that because their counter-pressing has almost become their playmaker. and their physicality, their intensity are becoming their hallmarks, and it's making them really, really tough to play against. And, you know, we've seen the journey that Klopp took Liverpool on. I'm not saying that Eddie Howe can replicate that, but it's a bloody good start. Can they sustain this sort of form in the run-up to the World Cup then? Because they have some winnable fixtures coming up.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the fact that they've got results against top 4 rivals recently shows that they absolutely can. You know, a draw at Old Trafford, very unlucky to lose away at Anfield. If it wasn't for that last-minute Fabio Carvalho goal, they would still be unbeaten, wouldn't they? So, yeah, I think they absolutely can. You mentioned the fixtures there. I've got it in front of me here. Villa at home, Southampton away, Chelsea at home, Leicester away, Leeds at home. I think there's 4 winnable games in there. I even think Chelsea at home. St James's Park is going to be one of the hardest away days for any Premier League team this season. They create such an atmosphere there that nobody's going to want to travel there, particularly if it's like an early kick-off or like a Super Sunday game. I think it's going to be raucous, and I don't see a reason that they can't finish in the top 6. I think top 4 might still be a little bit of a push away for me across the course of the season. I think the World Cup probably helps them because, you know, they've had injury problems, Newcastle, so far this season. Alan Saint-Maximin's played 1 game since August. Alexander Isak has been injured pretty consistently since he's been there. Callum Wilson has been injured pretty consistently since he's been there.
Been very light in central midfield as well, with the likes of John Joe Shelvey.
John Joe Shelvey having to come on yesterday. He's been injured as well. I think Eddie Howe pre-game said that he would only use John Joe Shelvey in an emergency. And he had to bring him on, didn't he? Given, you know, Bruno has had such an emotional last 48 hours. But I think there's no reason they can't sustain this top 6 push. They are one of the best sides, like you mentioned a minute ago, pressing-wise in the entire division. They've got an extremely exciting attack. And Eddie Howe, whatever he learnt in that spell away where he went and studied Diego Simeone and spent time with teams in Italy, he's putting it into action, man. I think they are very much in contention for top 6. More so than I would have said Leicester a couple of seasons ago when they went 5th back-to-back.
Yeah, okay. No, I think top 6 is pretty sensible. Let us know your thoughts back home. What can Newcastle achieve this season? And let's not forget, if they are overperforming come the World Cup, then their owners might just be tempted to dip their toe back into the transfer market, financial fair play aside, and strengthen their bid to secure European football. I think I'm with you. I think Europa League would be an unbelievable season, very attainable at this point, but Champions League maybe just a little bit beyond them, although, not many of those top, traditional top 6 sides have really hit full stride this season yet, have they? Manchester City aside, Chelsea are finding their feet. Liverpool, so-so. Tottenham, so-so. Man United, probably in the ascendancy compared to some of the aforementioned teams. But we shall see. What do you think? Let us know in the comments below. Make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel with notifications on, and stay tuned for our rundown of Tottenham.